You know who I think we really need to hear from right now? Bro Cuomo. Remember him? Remember the guy who staged the emerging from his COVID lockdown in his mansion in the Hamptons? It was really tough. Really tough, that lockdown in the mansion, I'm sure. But, you know, not all heroes wear capes. And they had that whole stage thing. He was seen by people outside while he had COVID, mingling and going to check out his other Hamptons mansion, right? I mean, there was that. But we're supposed to forget about all that now. And this is how he responds to Trump when it was amazing to watch it in real time. It was really like the scene in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark when all the Nazis' faces melt off when they open the Ark. I'm not saying that they're Nazis, but I'm just saying the faces melting off. It was like that. You were watching in real time as Lib Media was just all turning into piles of goo. It was pretty amazing. Bro Cuomo was like, whoa, hold on a second. Do we even lift, bro? And he was going to protect his audience from even seeing the propaganda that Trump was putting out. Play 19.
He didn't just walk into the White House one time with no mask tonight. He had his video crew capture that stupid scene again so he could put out propaganda, fronting a lie to his people. Once again, just like, don't worry about the mask. Now he says, don't worry about COVID. Don't let it control your life. Just propaganda. That's all it is. I know there's sound to it. I'm not going to play it for you. Why should I? How much bull do you need in your life?
Oh, okay. I just want to be clear. So CNN now takes we don't want to expose you to too much Trump BS. Without Trump, CNN would have, one news story a week from some part of the world that no one cares about, but how, they have, look at what they've done here. I mean, they have nothing without Trump. What would they even talk about over there? This is all they care about now. Because Jeff Zucker personally hates the president. I know this from people at CNN. Zucker despises Trump, wants to take him down, and views this as really a contest between him and Trump in a lot of ways. He's run CNN. The president can't withstand the ire of CNN. In fact, I know the person who overheard Zucker's assistant on the Acela train to D.C. saying that if Trump wants to go to war with CNN, he's going to get a war with CNN during the campaign in 2016. So this is all, I mean, they could pretend, we're just journalists or whatever. No, it's a DNC PAC that doesn't have to register. That's what CNN has become. And we're not even going to expose you to this. They worry that it will traumatize people now because they condition their audience to think, see, we told you, look at what happened to Trump. And Trump's saying to them, yeah, look at what happened. I went out and lived my life. We took some precautions. It wasn't enough. I'm the president. We have a lot of testing going on. It still wasn't enough. But now I beat this thing and I'm okay. You can choose to live your life too. People who want to hide under their beds from this forever, go for it. But remember, they're not saying that they want to do that. They want to force their fears upon you. They want to make you do what is necessary for their emotional health. And they want the force of the state. They want police to shut down your business. They want your own building, your own homeowners association or your condo or your neighborhood, whatever, to get all up in your face over not wearing a mask outside. That's what they're demanding. They're not demanding, hey, can you guys let us do our thing? No, you have to do what they say. My mask protects you. Your mask protects me. This is what the libs are constantly saying, which is just absurd. It's like, whose streets are streets? But they're traumatized by this. They actually worry that if they expose their audience to what's really going on now, people are going to have, I think, a real emotional breakdown moment. Here's CNN's John Burr. I mean, look, we could do this all day. We are going to move on to some other stuff here. He had Biden last night with it was a straight up campaign commercial that they didn't pay for. It was an infomercial on NBC, which of course is, but Biden still said things that are Biden things. And so he said dumbass stuff, and we'll get into that. But here's CNN's John Berman. When Trump takes off his mask, he's outside by himself. but he takes off his mask, and this is what CNN's John Berman says at Play 21.
And the president, in that Sunset Boulevard gesture, whipped his mask off in front of the American people on the nightly news last night. So, as a doctor whose job it is, take it off. Please, don't even put it on the screen. Please take it off. Because that's going to kill people.
Oh, my God. They're so crazy. If that's going to kill people, is he supposed to wear a mask when he goes to sleep at night? Is he supposed to wear a mask in the shower? Look, the libs were nuts before all this happened. Trump broke them years ago. They believe in this fairy tale about Russia collusion and all this stuff. But now they're really saying things like Trump is killing people because he's outside by himself and he took his mask off. They really think that masks are that crucial and critical all the time? Who's he going to infect? Mika, who really, she's just the worst kind of, Mika is just, Nancy Pelosi and, 20 years before or whatever. But he, the classic limousine liberal has no real connection to the people. And it's just finds everybody who's not, lunching at the right places to be icky. Here she is on, Mika's got where she is because of her last name. We all know it. So let's just be honest about it. And the whole thing where she abandoned her family and Joe Scarborough abandoned his family and they were coworkers, colleagues, and they started, the whole thing is. But she likes to lecture people. And her and Joe were all about Trump in 2016 until Trump's like, I don't like them anymore. No more special access for you guys. And then that was the end of it. Then all of a sudden Trump was literally Hitler. This may have been there were so many great lines of insane hysteria. This may have been the best one. Play 20.
You're a lawyer. Maybe the president's just immune from everything.
But yes, I am.
Because the president said, maybe I'm immune now. Is he legally immune? What if his Secret Service men and women who have to drive him around in these vans and get exposed to his deadly coronavirus? What if one of them gets sick and die? What if somebody at that Rose Garden event gets sick and dies? I don't want this to happen, and I wish for his health. But I'm just wondering, he's pushing all of this against the advice of the professionals in his government, against the advice of scientists. At some point, isn't this manslaughter? I mean, if you purposefully put people in a position where you send a deadly virus their way, what is that?
Isn't it manslaughter? No, you abject nincompoop. It's not manslaughter. Or otherwise, we've apparently all been murdering people with flu for as long as we've been alive because we weren't wearing masks. People who believe in the sacred powers of cloth masks now will dismiss this, but they have no real response if you force them on the issue, other than 30 to 60,000 flu deaths every year is not that bad. No, those lives don't really matter that much, apparently, to the lockdowners. Not that bad. No, we just realized that would be, it's too much of an imposition. It doesn't work. It's not effective. You're not saving lives. You're just harassing and annoying everybody. But this is the same logic that people have with, if it would save one life with gun control, let's get rid of everyone's 10-round magazines. Let's make them 6-round magazines, 7-round. That'll save lives. No, you're just annoying people. It's not going to work. People aren't going to turn in their magazines. But it's the same mentality. Nothing is too petty, useless. As long as they get to control it and they feel good about themselves while they do it. And this is like people who really believe they're making a big difference in the environment by taking a bicycle to work instead of driving. It's completely irrational. It means nothing, but they're one of the good people. Yeah, it's manslaughter. It's manslaughter, they say. Or Mika says here, because the president is exposing everybody to this virus. What do you think the lib media is going to do when everyone in Trump's circle that has gotten COVID-19 in this last few days we've heard about, they all recover and they're all fine? What do you think their line's going to be then? Oh, they've all had the best. Because right now it's Trump has better health care than everybody else. Okay, he has special health care, but they're not giving him, there's not some secret antidote that they haven't given to everybody else that you can't get. Remdesivir is a standard of care now in major hospitals across the country. Dexamethasone, the steroid they've been giving him, has been around for a very long time. It's not rare or hard to get. What exactly is it? The antibodies that have been cleared for usage, other people have also been getting them, but they threw everything they had at the president, and he's looking pretty good. As I've already said to you, Kayleigh McEnany, I'm sure it's probably the case with Hope Hicks too. I haven't seen any specifics about her symptoms so far, but Kayleigh doesn't even have any symptoms. Imagine being told that you have to live in fear of a disease, and then fear of a disease, and that it should dominate your life because that's what they're saying, and then you get it and you say, I have a disease that I don't even know that I have. Doesn't that, are we allowed to make some distinction, some determination about how much that affects our fear and our policies around this? There are top epidemiologists, Harvard, Stanford medical schools, who will say, we know the real data is as follows. The real approach should be protect people who are older, make sure that anyone who's especially older and has a pre-existing condition that would be a comorbidity for this that's where the focus of resources on testing, on treatment, on everything should be. They should also get the vaccine first, and the rest of the population under 50, go live your life. Now, people say, but what about my grandma? If you are under 50 and you have to take care of a grandparent or a parent who's at higher risk, then that also that you should consider yourself to be in that higher risk category of what you're willing to do. But there are a lot of people that's not the case. They're not in contact with people who are at high. So we make the policy for everyone, for toddlers in preschool, the same as we'd make the policy. It's nuts. It's nuts. And there's one person I think who's more to blame for this than anybody else, and I'm tired of him. He's completely lacking in humility. He's clearly a giant lib, and I think that he's responsible for a tremendous amount of damage in the country. I don't think he's a hero at all. And we'll hear what he says about all this in just a second. What does the COVID-19 pandemic have to do with you losing your home? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You see, the FBI says that there's been about a 75% bump in cybercrime from the beginning of the pandemic, and home title theft is a cybercrime. Here's how it works. The bad guys find your information online, then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on. They take out loans against your home's equity, steal your cash, leave you with the payments. You might not even find out about this until you get a foreclosure notice in the mail. You have to take action today. Create a virtual barrier around your home's title with Home Title Lock. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code RADIO to get 30 free days of protection. You can also check online to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. Don't wait. Check out now, HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO. See if you're already a victim of this crime, don't even know it, and you'll get 30 free days of protection.
You know, I'd like to say that everything is going to be great by Thanksgiving, but honestly, Chris, I'm not so sure it is. We've got to get that baseline of infection down. We're stuck at 40,000. We got to go below 10,000, way below 10,000 throughout the country, and we got to do it uniformly. I mean, I feel like, I preach this all the time. We'll get there if we do uniform wearing of masks, keeping distance, avoiding crowds, outdoors much more than indoors, and washing your hands. I've been with you on the show multiple times, and I say that over and over again. I know, and if as a country we actually did it, we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now, for sure.
Why is Sweden in the position it's in, and they never did any of the things that he says we have to do? Anyone want to try and answer to that one? Just wondering. Oh, it's on us. You see, notice. What else is he really going to say, though? Think this one through on your own. Forget about all the media narratives and everything else. What's Fauci going to say? I'm the head of a public health organization that grossly underperforms and is full of bureaucratic ineptitude and is usually sending out important message from the CDC, gun violence is bad. But here, I got to say, it's really on all you guys. Otherwise, it's going to be on me. And I will have told you to do things that are annoying, that have caused huge spikes in suicide, in depression, in cancer, and ruined your economy and your business for no reason. He's never going to say that. That's never going to happen. It doesn't matter what. They're always going to say that it was necessary. Could you imagine? Hey guys, sorry about all that lockdown stuff. I was wrong about all that. So don't ever think that we're going to reach a point where there'll be honesty about this. It's never going to happen. It's like Russia collusion. They ran everything down to the ground, and now all the facts show that it was a fabrication of Hillary Clinton's DNC, the Hillary campaign, and deep state Democrats and their media operatives. That's all. That's the whole thing. It was all a fabrication. There was no real evidence. They made it all up. But they don't care. They still say, well, we'll find the evidence one day. We just don't. It's still out there. Here you have Fauci saying that if only we wore masks better, if you wore masks better, we would not be in this problem. Interesting. I was here, and I have not forgotten, in New York City because you have to remember, we believe, people say, oh, Buck, but no, we've gotten better at wearing masks, or we take it. That's a lie. In New York City at the very beginning of this, people, including me, were very worried because we did not know about the age stratification. We did not have that data. Not really. We saw what happened in Italy. Everyone was completely freaked out. And we were like, St. Fauci, whatever you say, St. Fauci, we're washing our hands, we're wearing masks, we're social distancing, we're locked down. And cases just rocketed up and stayed up and came down after almost 2 months. And everyone was wearing a mask everywhere they went all the time. But now, if we wear masks better, we're going to be out of this? I'm sorry. Ultimately, you have to remember, these people aren't smarter than you. And I know that that's probably a controversial thing to say, but they're really not. When was the last time Fauci was really tested? When was the last time somebody really checked in on this guy? What does he know? Yeah, he's been in the game a long time at the CDC. Great. You think that's where you would really want to be if you were a great medical mind? I mean, not exactly a ton of amazing breakthroughs happening there in the bureaucracy. I'm just going to say it. They're not as clever as everyone wants them to believe. And there are a lot of doctors who are libs, and they're all part of the hive mind and the group think. I know other doctors who will tell you, look, this stuff is, it's really kind of a disgrace what's going on, where they won't be honest about where they've been wrong. They just say, oh, we've got new data now. No, what new data? The new data says everything that we've done hasn't really mattered very much. The initial premise of all of this was hospital capacity. I have to keep reminding everybody of this. Now Fauci's saying, shut down the virus with masks indefinitely. That was never the plan. That was never the argument that was made in the beginning. It was, oh gosh, guys, we're not going to have enough ventilators. There's going to be people dying in the ER on the floor because we have nothing to do with them. We can't, treat them. We don't have the doctors to treat them. And so please stay home so we can at least get a handle on this. And then it was, no, you're going to keep staying home. You're going to keep staying home. You're going to keep staying home. What? Why would they be dishonest? What am I saying that's not true? Someone explain. Where am I wrong here? I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth that they don't want people to spend any time thinking about. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a doctor to know this. All you have to know is what they said and what they're saying now. If we only wore masks, we would crush this thing, he's telling us. Why wasn't that the point from day one? Because he would have had to say, get ready to wear a mask and be in lockdown for the next 12 to 18 months. And nobody would have gone along with that. Why? Oh, I guess because we're all heartless monsters, right? Their arguments don't hold up. Let's talk about Joe Biden. He's the guy that's going to make it all better, right? That's what they're telling you. What would Joe do if he were in charge? Well, there was this NBC town hall last night, which was just laughable. It was let's pose a bunch of softball questions from Democrats to the presidential candidate here for the Democrats, so that he can look as good as possible in front of a national TV audience. That was what really happened. They can call it a town hall from undecided voters or whatever, but it's not what actually went down. But here's the first thing that Biden says. Play clip 1.
My prayers continue to be with the President and the First Lady for their health and safety, as they, like so many American families, are dealing with COVID-19. I was glad to see the President speaking and recording videos over the weekend. Now that he's busy tweeting campaign messages, I would ask him to do this. Listen to the scientists. Support masks. Support a mask mandates nationwide. Require masks in every federal building and facility and interstate travel. Urge every governor and mayor to do the same. We know it saves lives. His administration just rejected a mask mandate for public transportation on Friday. The SEIU came along and said, we need to be protected. And they said no. I believe that was wrong and not very rational.
He wants a mask mandate federally. They want, this is what people forget. We've gone through this, and look at all the intrusion. By the way, that was from Biden on the campaign trail. We'll get into the NBC town hall stuff in a second, but I wanted to play that for you. He's saying, and that was before Trump got out of the hospital. They once the federal government falls in the hands of a Democrat, what you've seen so far with the intrusiveness, the arbitrariness, the stupidity of these policies, it's going to be so much worse. Because they're not going to change. You think they're going to look at the new data? And, I know people have been thinking, come on, we're going to have a vaccine. Just wait. I guarantee you there will be a whole lib movement to tell people it doesn't matter if you've gotten the vaccine. You still have to wear a mask. Oh, okay. That's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Listen to the sign. Vaccine's not perfect. Wear a mask. That's what they're going to say to you. Because I know their mentality. They really just want to be right. They're so invested in this idea that they're the good, smart people who believe in science. They never really think about anything. They just they're emotionally and psychologically needy for the comfort they get from this false consensus around these issues. That's what they're really going to do. That's what's going to happen. Mark my words. We'll come back. Remember how I tell you about these predictions? You know I said they were going to lock us down again, and that's what they're doing in New York. They're already doing it. I've been saying that for months. And now they're going to tell you once the vaccine comes out. First of all, we've already seen them do a lot of undermining of the vaccine. I don't know if you can trust Trump with this one. I don't know if you can trust him. A little bit of selective anti-vaxxing is right on brand for the Democrats these days, right? They're willing to. We want to talk about costing lives and manslaughter. There will be people, and I think a large number of them, who will not get this vaccine. And put aside whether you think the vaccine works or not yet, and all that. I know it hasn't been approved, but there will be people who do not get vaccinated, who are in the high risk category, who will die. And the reason they don't get vaccinated is because they've heard the BS from Kamala, from Biden. We don't know if we can trust him. Don't know if we can trust him. So just remember that. Well, they're all, it's manslaughter that Trump took his mask off outside. People are absolutely nuts. But I just want to note that that's what you're facing with Joe Biden. You'll be vaccinated, and people will say you still have to wear a mask. I mean, it's the dumbest thing in the world at this point. I mean, we're very close to a vaccine, and what we realize is that they don't care. They're not going to give up all this power. What you think? You think the Democrat plan is, okay, we got a vaccine, guys. Let's start going back to normal life. No, they like this. In fact, you can see a chart. It's very instructive. People who are high earners during the pandemic, they've been doing great. They don't have to go to the office anymore. They're still got their jobs. They're fine. People that work in the service industry, people that work in stores, small business owners, they're getting crushed. So now you say, well, Buck, isn't that bad for the Democrats? Because aren't there a lot of... No, because the Democrats blame it all on Trump. They say it's all Trump's fault. And that then becomes their answer for everything. So they get to, Nancy Pelosi gets to stay in her mansion in San Francisco and have, servants and people doing everything for her all the time. And then when people say, wait a second, my job is gone, or my business is gone, the grocery stores have been doing fine, but the bar that I own is shut down forever. She goes, yeah, it's Trump's fault. Oh, okay. But see, Pelosi has no skin in the game. She doesn't care. Doesn't matter to her. Most of the journos out there, too, they're just, website writers and stuff. They're all working from home. Look, I mean, people like me, even who work in the media, have been very lucky during this whole thing. But I actually want people to be able to go back to restaurants and eat and live their lives. And I've been advocating for it for many months now, because I understand what's actually happening to people across the country. And because it comes in waves, too, it's very hard to get a critical mass of Americans to say enough. And I've noticed this. It's a little bit of a divide and conquer problem we have with the COVID lockdowns, because, when I was talking about this in New York and New Jersey in the early days, let's say March, April, a lot of people were writing in and saying, Buck, it's not that bad. Why are you talking about this so much? And I was like, well, it's going to come for you guys, too. And then it hit Florida, and then it hit Texas. And when I say it comes for you, the virus, but also the lockdowns, the policies, and obviously it hit California. And then, they've been going through California. What are we supposed to believe? They have had another surge in cases recently, and it's because they didn't wear masks enough. I mean, wait, before we move on back to the Biden and town hall, don't ever forget. They're going to try to make you forget this. Don't ever forget that the lib journos and the blue check docs, that they were all making excuses or even entirely justifying when the pandemic was at a very high level of spread across the country still. They were justifying massive gatherings, protests of people where there was very little policing of masks. Some people wore masks. Plenty of people did not, because they said it was so important for the BLM movement, because that was really saving lives. And they went out and they justified that. Never listen to these frauds again. Never listen to them again. Oh, and the anti-lockdown protests were dangerous, but the BLM protests were fine. That's what we were being told. This is just lib socialist tyranny. That's all it is. That's all you're really getting. You're getting your 30-day free trial of commies in charge right now with all this nonsense. And if you let Biden win, my God, this is going to be it's going to be a nightmare for the country, and not just on the COVID issues, on everything. Let's get to it now. Let's jump into what Biden says. I want to start. I was just talking about BLM. What's Biden's answer for how we can improve policing in this country?
I'm going to do what I've done in the past. I'm going to bring all these interests together. Peaceful protesters, police chiefs, police officers, the police unions, as well as the civil rights groups in the White House, and sit down and decide what are the things that need to be done to improve and help police officers. I'm the only one who's talked about increasing police budgets. When your husband goes on a call that in fact is a 911 call, it's better if he or she has with them a psychologist or psychiatrist with them, someone who knows how to deal with someone who is not all there. And so there's a lot of things we should be doing. In addition to that, I also am proposing that we spend significantly more money on community policing. The reason it worked, my son used to be an attorney general of the state of Delaware. The idea is you get the police, you get the law enforcement together with the community so they know one another. Because that kid walking across the street with a hoodie on may be the next poet laureate. It doesn't mean that child is going to be in trouble.
Just all liberal claptrap and blather from Biden here. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, actually. This is what he thinks. This shows you how much he understands about law enforcement, the problems of law enforcement, the challenges that they face. And there's a reason why in the debate, and this was a moment that Trump did get in a really good shot. Has any major law enforcement organization come out in support of Joe Biden's candidacy? He didn't have an answer then, because we all think the answer is no. They don't, because they know. They know the Democrat Party, in order to try to turn out the minority vote and in order to create a narrative of Trump as a bad guy who, is all these things, white nationalist, he's a racist, he's terrible. They're willing to throw police under the bus. They're willing to throw police under the bus and say that police are the problem. And this is just a Democrat political strategy. That's all they're doing. It's very obvious. I think we all recognize it for what it is, at least if you're objective and clear-eyed in how you approach this stuff. And just look at some of the things that he says. First of all, that he wants to increase police budgets. Why exactly is that? Okay, so we've gone from defund the cops, which is what the rallying cry of the Democrats was all summer, to now Biden's like, I want to increase the budget for policing. But you see, I'm sure he would have to then add to it, but only for certain things, not for actual cops. Let's make the police department a bloated jobs program for lazy Democrats. That's really what they want to do. That's the idea. They've done this in the public school system. The biggest area of growth in the public school system in terms of employment over the last 20 years is non-teaching administrative staff. So that's where you get all these, you want as many vice principals and assistant vice principals and deputy assistant vice principals you can possibly get in there. Make sure everyone's making 120 to 150 grand, unfireable, no real job description to speak of other than just have an office and be there. There's been a 6-fold increase in the last 15 years, might be the last 20 years, of administrative staff in the public school system, where you're just like, well, okay, what is this? Just bureaucrats. Maybe put as many bureaucrats in there as possible. That's the plan. And so Biden, when he's talking about making the police departments have a bigger budget, no one really thinks it's so we can put more cops on the street, right? Cops are, if you listen to Democrats, they're bad. They're racist. Cops are killing unarmed black men for sport systematically across the country. That's what we've been told for months. They're still burning down buildings and, looting and rioting and doing all this crazy crap over that lie. They're still doing it. That hasn't changed. So let's look at some of the specifics here. Biden says that if he were in charge, he would want to make sure that there was a psychologist or a psychiatrist with a cop on a 911 call. You want to talk about just a proposition that I want to know how he thinks this is going to work exactly. Do you want to be the psychiatrist who gets to go on domestic violence calls with a cop in the hopes that maybe your services are needed and that you're not just there to watch somebody try to, hit their ex-husband in the face with a frying pan or a meat cleaver? I mean, you want that job? What are these psychiatrists? Psychiatrists go to med school. That's an MD. Unlike Joe Biden's wife, who we call doctor because she has a doctorate in education. Sorry, not calling her doctor. To be a psychiatrist, you actually have to have an MD. You have to go to medical school. We're going to have MDs riding along for what would be the standard? No, I really mean this. He says this. He's a presidential candidate. Let's think this through. When does the psychiatrist go along for the police call? Where's that psychiatrist all day? Are they waiting in an office to get sent along in the case that there's somebody who's what we would call in police, what they call in police work, an EDP, an emotionally disturbed person? Okay. Now the cops can go and do. The procedure is you go, you make sure everyone's safe, you deal with any issues of law breaking or anyone in imminent harm, and then if you need to, you take somebody to the psych unit in a hospital, right? That's the way it works right now. We're going to send out psychologists and psychiatrists on police calls. You know what we should do? Let's send social workers. Remember when that was the plan? They've had to step away from that one because it was so stupid. Yes, send a social worker. Hey, I know that, you fired off a bunch of rounds at your neighbor with your Glock because, you don't like the way that his hat was on his head or something. But, let's talk about your childhood. Yeah, that's really going to solve things. Hey, I know a great jobs website that I could introduce you to. So can you take that baseball bat out of your hands and stop threatening to kill your neighbor with it? Because there's really great job opportunities out there. Now, look, I'm not saying that there's not a role for people to be out there, but the cops have a job to do. And the job is not to be everyone's babysitter in society. It's not to be and we already ask so much of law enforcement in this regard. And, they overwhelmingly rise to the occasion and have to do a lot of it. They got to be on, and every cop I know will say they got to be on the spot therapist. They got to intervene in family disputes. They got to make people feel safe while also making sure the law is being enforced. While also, there's a lot that goes into this. Not an easy job, folks. Not an easy job. Who threw them under the bus this summer because it was politically expedient? Who allowed lies to be told about our law enforcement community? Endlessly. Magnified them. Democrat Party and the media. The same people that go on TV at MSNBC and talk about how racist cops are all the time, I assure you, if someone, broke into the back door of their mansion in Kalorama, they would call those cops and expect them there right away. And they would be very happy to see them. But then they'd go on TV the next night and talk about how cops are racist murderers again, because that's what their audience has been trained to believe, and that's the big lie of the Democrat Party. And then community policing. This is what people say who don't really know anything, right? Community policing. You know what another word for community policing is? Policing. The NYPD, the LAPD, they have outreach programs. They have community liaison officers. They got, and overwhelmingly, including in large cities, the relationship with most of the population, most of the residents of the city, and the police force is very good. There's a small subset of the population that wants to go out and riot and attack cops and spit on them and act like they're the bad guys. They just happen to all be Democrats. That's the problem. It's all Democrats. This is their issue. This is their shortcoming. They're failing. And Biden talking about this, it's just laughable idiocy from this clown. It really is.